What's up, 444? This is the DFS MVP Podcast. We're going to be doing a tournament breakdown of the Week 13 NFL main slate for DraftKings. And of course, there's one game that's only on FanDuel. We'll go over that game as well. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. I'm here with Davis Mattek. He is at Davis Mattek on the socials. I'm here with Pat Kerrane. He is at Pat Kerrane on the socials. Before we dive into this, let's just talk a little bit about the Thanksgiving slate. How did you guys feel about how things went on Thanksgiving? Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Caleb Williams had big games. To refresh your memory, Jonnu Smith, of course, went off as a late round best ball pick. I don't remember what else. Who else were the big scores? You guys, did you have any of it? Rico Dowdle. Yeah, Rico Dowdle finally had a blow up game. How we feel?
That was genuinely good for my best ball bags. There's not the bags aren't looking too hot, and there's not like a ton that could do a lot for them. But Rico Dowdle, I think, was my second highest drafted running back, and so getting a nice game late in the season was helpful.
Rico Dowdle, I believe, also my second highest exposed running back. My number one, of course, being Khalil Herbert, who is just crushing it. Yeah, good to see Rico Dowdle have a big game.
There's still time, Neil.
There's still he might get like 4 rushes this week.
Yeah, he could, maybe spike a touchdown, get 7 fantasy points for me. We'll see.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I was tied for 5th of the big underdog turkey on the last. I was asleep, so this got told to me secondhand, and I either needed a Tyreek catch or Jonnu not to do anything on the final drive, and what Jonnu had 3 for 24 on the final drive or whatever. So no shipper.
Shout out to John Daigle, who was on this pod last year with us, and he on the Shipcast or the Ship Chasing Thanksgiving show anyway.
That's right.
We did a draft. We do a draft every year where we draft the Thanksgiving slate, and round 1 he took Jonnu Smith, which was panned universally.
Yeah.
And he won it. He won the 6.
He won the contest.
It's FFPC scoring.
I'm pretty sure it's just DraftKings scoring.
Yeah,
all right, John.
That's right.
Yeah, he just took Jonnu 101. We're not 101.
And this was
105.
Yeah, and this was you needed, like, there's no flex. You need 1 tight end, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, and a quarterback. I forget the exact
quarterback. Yeah,
I forget that. Yeah, when I watched it, I was like, "What? What are you doing, Daigle?"
Another tight end didn't go for like 2 more rounds.
Yeah, right. Worked out well for him. Good for him. Good for Daigle.
Good for Daigle.
I was gonna say, Davis, so it makes feeling better. I was talking to a friend of mine who I only know, like, we talk in Discord, but he's won a Millie Maker, won a lot of money in DFS, was winning like $80,000 on that. Like, it was like, also was fading like 2 points out of Jonnu Smith, so to win $70,000-$80,000, something like that. So that was kind of had the same brutal run out to a very high magnitude.
It's twice in a week for me. I was in first place of the showdown solo on Monday night.
Really?
Yeah,
I missed that,
which is pretty hard to do.
Yeah.
And I just needed the Ravens to kill the clock, and they were not able to do so, and they punted.
Brutal.
So it's just like, it's so annoying because I actually feel like I am playing pretty good this year overall.
It sounds like it. If you're that close.
I've just had a bunch of things like that, and when I won showdown, it chopped 8 ways. So just give me one. Just give me one.
All right. Well,
maybe. I would like a side by side of Neil's friend last night with Davis just passed out as the same
right.
sweat.
Yeah. Someone was saying Pete's Discord to me, and I was like, guys, there's not a sweat that can keep me awake. Honestly, at this point, like it would have to be for so much money to keep me awake. I stick to my bedtime.
You make a BBM final. You're not staying up for that.
I'll be awake. If I have a BBM final sweat, I'll be awake. Right. We'll go live.
That'd be a tough one to fade. As you can see, my ring light is broken, so apologies that I'm not as bright as my co-host today. I'll have to get a new one of these days. I don't think anybody really cares. All right, we're gonna go game by game. I have posted in the 444 YouTube chat my article for the Week 13 main slate. You can find that there. Check it out. So if I'm going to be going in the order in the article. So if you want to follow along as we go through the games, you can follow along with the article that's in there. And if you're not already signed up for 444, I don't even remember what the exact price is right now, but it's like $5 for like the rest of the season, I think, for a DFS package at 4for4. So if you want access to all of this, go check out 4for4.com/plans, I believe is the website, and you can get access to all of it if you want to follow along for like $5 for the rest of the year, something crazy like that. So check it out if you haven't already. All right. First game of the slate, Los Angeles Chargers at Atlanta Falcons. Chargers have an implied team total of 24.5. That is 10th out of 32 teams this week. Falcons implied team total of 23. That is 16th out of 32 teams this week. Davis, I'll start with you. Do you like anybody from the Chargers or Falcons?
Yeah, I mean, I think this might be the game of the slate. Like the key to getting it right. We get the Chargers in a dome. They don't have J.K. Dobbins, which could really tilt them being more pass heavy. The Falcons could really get pushed in this game. We've seen when the Falcons get pushed, they just like spit fantasy points. Like when the Falcons have to drop back 44, like that is the Kirk Cousins thing. Kirk Cousins is throwing 48 passes in a 4-point loss. Like that is like that's going to go on Kirk Cousins' tombstone. Like that is what he was born to do. So like, and Cousins is going to be the unowned part of this game because Herbert's like the number 1 points per dollar quarterback. So if you just did Cousins, London, Mooney, Disley instead of Herbert, Ladd, London, you're like, you need the same thing as the field, but you just have different perspective of it. I guess we should talk about Gus Edwards. I'm leaning towards just not playing him at all at 4,300. I was pretty excited about him to begin the week, but Haskins played way more than I thought last week. He actually doubled Edwards up in snaps last week and played all the 2-minute drill and long down and distance stuff. And then I sort of thought that Greg Roman would be like, oh yeah, it'd be nice. It'd be nice to have Vidal. Like we'll give him a little bit. No, he came out this morning or yesterday morning, I don't remember which, and said about Vidal, there's no such thing as a rookie in week 13. We're going to give him the ball a ton. We're going to work him in. We're really excited about using him, which basically means this is the classic. The running backs all stay in their roles when the starter gets hurt and then the starter gets replaced. That is just kind of like we see this time. We're literally seeing it with the Raiders, right? Like, oh, Sincere McCormick comes in and is getting these rushes, right? It's just we see this stuff all the time. So I think I'm off Gus.
Are you on Vidal?
You think
then?
Vidal then is like replacing the Dobbins role?
I think it'll be segmented. I think we're just basically going to have 3 guys. I think Vidal is going to play the passing downs. If you told me Haskins gets no rushes inside the 10, I would play Gus because he could just score 2 touchdowns at 4,300. Like could happen any week, but I don't think that can be guaranteed.
No, definitely not. Interesting. And you're not playing any Vidal, Davis?
No, because it's such a good running back slate. Like an incredible running back slate. Like I any team where I would maybe play Vidal, I'd just be like, well, I'll just play a cheaper defense and play Bucky Irving, who's like gonna get 16 in any scenario.
Yeah. Pat, how about you? Anything different for you, Pat?
Well, I guess I'm more nervous about the Atlanta side of this because they've been very conservative this year. We just saw the Ravens go run heavy against this Chargers defense. They just had a 40% pass rate last week, minus 14% PROE. We've seen the Falcons consistently this season have a tilt to the run and often a very heavy tilt to the run, especially on first down. They had a minus 23% PROE on 1st and 10 against the Seahawks. Then the last 3 weeks, minus 19, minus 15, minus 16. So, and then overall, minus 12, minus 11, minus 5. So I guess I'm like thinking that Bijan's the safest way to play this on the Falcons side. And it's sort of tricky for me because I'm like, if the Falcons end up passing, I think it's because the Chargers are putting them in position where they need to pass. So the Chargers are putting up points. So Herbert's probably doing good. So that's where I struggle. I struggle to get excited about the Cousins side with the idea that, the Chargers are probably pushing them. And so then maybe I just want to play the Chargers other than Bijan. I think Bijan is set up pretty nicely here.
Okay. Yeah. And I didn't write up Kirk Cousins. I don't hate the idea of playing Kirk Cousins. Like I think that's an interesting idea to just play it differently than the field. But I didn't write him up. I just wrote up Bijan as a target. He's only 7,300. He has a great role. Fine matchup with the Chargers. Drake London, Darnell Mooney, kind of always in play. And then, yeah, I wrote up Herbert and Ladd as targets, but I agree with Davis. They're probably going to get steamed to an extent that it's like, in the end, I probably won't be with the field entirely on them. I think I'll probably play a little bit of Gus, and we'll get to the reasons later because there are some really expensive places that I want to go and I need to find some salary savings. So I'll probably play a little bit of Gus. Don't know that I'll get to any Vidal. And then Will Dissly has he's been awesome since the bye week. He is, I believe he's questionable, but 44 targets in 7 games since the Chargers bye week. Like they just seem to really like Will Dissly. So very much in play.
His route participation is dropped a bit.
Yeah,
but he gets targeted so much that it's like maybe not such a big deal. But he is like a little fragile that way. I was at 71% last week, which is okay. Gus, I definitely am open to.
I'm open to it, but that is the type of play that like he might even score and still not be good on DraftKings.
Right.
You know,
true.
Yeah,
he could score and put up 12 fantasy points, and like you don't want him because of all the opportunity costs. Absolutely could happen. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I'll probably, I think I'll have some, not like 100%, but I think that I will have some, in large part just because I want to play some expensive stacks. So like, got to find some ways to get there. And obviously, you can play with like Bucky Irving, but not.
I mean, is playing Gus Edwards any different than playing like, I don't know, these like Mike Gesicki types at tight end? Right. Not really.
Yeah, exactly. Except for that it is like taking away a running back spot. So I guess they're like, from that standpoint, it's a little bit different, taking away a running back spot instead of a tight end spot. But no, I think he's just as good of a play. So I'll have probably a little bit. Let's move on. Texans at Jaguars. Another sort of interesting one here. Texans implied team total of 24. That's tied for the 11th out of 32 teams on the week. Jaguars 19.5. That is 26th out of 32 teams on the week. Maybe this updates with Trevor Lawrence now looking like he is likely to play. Pat, what are you thinking about as far as the Texans and or Jaguars go? Anybody you're interested in?
Yeah, I mean, Trevor Lawrence playing is a big deal in this game. I mean, Joe Mixon is a really strong play. No matter what, he was gonna feast if it was Jones. But the funny thing about Lawrence is that when he's been bad, if you look at his efficiency and stuff, it's just Mac Jones. It's that he is sometimes really good. And so you get a ceiling from this game now that you didn't have before. And that ceiling, I think, is really applied to the Texans passing game because they have the incredible matchup with the Jaguars here. We also do have a little bit of a trend toward the pass. The Texans have generally been a conservative offense, but they've been pass heavy over the last 2 weeks, which has coincided with Nico Collins' return to play. So, maybe we're seeing a little bit of a shift. And then even if we're not seeing a shift, Lawrence being back gives us a second out to Texans passing volume where, they push this into a competitive script. We saw Will Levis. I thought Will Levis was going to be really struggling against this defense last week. But what the Titans did is they went run heavy. And then they used Levis to play aggressively and take shots. Now, a lot of he threw a pick six. Like the shots didn't all go well, but he did generate some fun passing production as part of that. And I wonder if the Jaguars might do something similar here. They've gone pretty run heavy with Mac Jones under center. You have Lawrence back, but it's his first game. So you could be looking at, you could be looking. I'm sorry, but Brittany's cousin brought me a coffee.
I was like, is there a dog in there? What's going on right now?
She handed me my coffee. I don't think I'm talking. Sorry. So Lawrence, I think gives them just you have a way this game plays out now where he can attack deep in a way that Jones just didn't have a chance to. So as part of the secondary punch to a run heavy attack, and then Bigsby looks like he's going to be back and everything. And so I think that also gives the Jags a path that could be successful here on offense, moving the ball more efficiently on the ground, which Bigsby's been a much better runner than Travis Etienne this year. So all in all, this game has gotten a lot more interesting over the course of the week than when I first wrote it up. I actually had to go back and rewrite the whole thing because I was like, I'm actually kind of into this game now. And especially Nico Collins. I mean, I think his ceiling is really fun here.
Yeah, I'm very much on the same page as you, but I want to hear Davis's thoughts. Davis, what do you think of Houston and Jacksonville?
Nico and Brian Thomas are awesome. Nico looks just kind of the way salaries breaking out this week. It's very interesting. Like, I'd be surprised if any wide receiver is owned more than 25%. And I think there's going to be a lot of really good plays at like 13%. So I kind of think it's a classic play whoever you want spot. Like there's like not really a guy like, oh, he looks kind of overowned relative to his projection. Like, no, it all looks at equilibrium, and it's going to be more about combinations or just who you like. And I think Nico is that guy. And weirdly, not a ton of ownership on Brian Thomas Jr. either. I kind of thought BTJ would be like the chalk, but he's more like 17% on a $5,000. I mean, that's fine. Deebo Samuel's been 17%, a billion slates in a row while never getting there.
Right.
Brian Thomas Jr. looks pretty good to me. The thing obviously that is holding you back is, man, if this is a bad Trevor Lawrence game, like he just doesn't have it or is just injured, like, dude, the Texans are just going to run the ball.
Yeah.
Like they are. Sure, we'll get one cool Nico play, but like the one cool Nico play means he's going to be 4 for 86 and a touchdown.
Also, it'll get called back.
It'll get called back.
Yeah.
It'll get called back. Yeah, that is the big problem there. And then Evan Ingram leads all tight ends in target share since he came back from his injury. He's 4,800. He's less expensive than Taysom. Spoiler: Taysom is like the play of the slate. But you could definitely play both of them together. I think this is probably another good, just because of the DraftKings, man. Can we get a minus 10% button on all the wide receiver pricing? It's unbearable having to pay through the nose on all these guys. Like TJ Hawkinson's 4,200, Jordan Addison is 6,500 or whatever. Can we meet them? Can we meet in the middle?
Yeah.
Can we just meet in the middle? But yeah.
I didn't even notice Jordan Addison's price tag because he didn't really pop in anything, so I didn't really look at it closely.
I think to be fair, I'm actually wrong. I mean, it's wrong anyway. He's 5,300.
My God. Okay, all right.
I was looking at someone else. My bad.
Okay.
My bad.
Interesting.
Like, what's going on? Mac Jones, in his play this year, has been first percentile, 8th percentile, and 8th percentile in EPA per play. So just the type of guy who just sucks all the value out of an offense. Even still, Brian Thomas is at, for the season, 2.27 yards per route run. Dude is really good. Like and I mean, Trevor Lawrence has been really bad at times this year as well. He's bottomed out 8th percentile, 16th percentile in the Eagles last time we saw him. I mean, it's not like Thomas has had consistently good quarterback play. He's had moments with Lawrence playing really well, but this guy is really efficient. He rates pretty well on open score. He's a stud. So I like the Brian Thomas call. If he's not going to be like super popular, I'm pretty interested in him and Ingram. I think you could, like, because you sort of need the Jaguars to show up in this game to make sure there's passing volume on the other side. It does feel like a pretty classic. Like you could do like a Lawrence double stack Nico bring back. I think that would be in play. I'm probably more interested in playing it from the Stroud side because he has such an easier matchup and you just double stack him with like Tank and Collins. But theoretically, it does seem like a good bring back type of game. I'm not sure if I'll end up doing it with all the salaries working out the way they do.
And I think the Stroud part of it goes like under-owned, right? Like it's not projected for a ton of ownership, which is why I'm sort of like the game script you most likely expect is that Houston's playing from in front and it's Joe Mixon all game. So Joe Mixon going to get steam, but like I don't think a ton of people are going to go to CJ Stroud. He's also just been like a really bad fantasy producer all year. Like he's been awful. But it's good enough spot that I am. My note on it was CJ Stroud has exceeded 20 fantasy points just one time all year. But This is like the get right spot of all get right spots against the Jaguars, especially if Trevor Lawrence can keep it close. Like I think
but do they even want to get him right? Like they probably think they're fine.
I don't know.
Maybe that's true. Yeah. But
do they?
PFF Bobby's like, dude, we're gonna win the division. What do you want from me?
PFF Bobby, remember when we were talking about him as like potential head coaching candidate? Now it's like, I don't even forget this guy should be an OC.
Saskatchewan Rough Riders, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I would imagine that they want to get him right because they're not gonna they're gonna have to face they're gonna have to face good competition eventually, and they're probably gonna need a good quarterback in that case. Right. But yeah, I don't know. It's at the very least, it's a great matchup. So you know, we can just kind of hope for better efficiency regardless. Anything else? I guess I didn't write up like Dalton Schultz. I kind of thought about it, but didn't end up writing it out. But I guess he's playable without Diggs. Tank Dell didn't write him up, but again, like you said, could be included in a double stack. Yeah, Nico.
I think Dell's more interesting than Schultz. I mean, Schultz is at 0.98 yards per route run this year. 15% targets per route run. It's not good. He's got an okay ADOT. He's usually like a little bit downfield, 8.6. That's 79th percentile tight end. So maybe, but yeah, I mean, Tank's not what we were hoping at all. But I think I'm more interested in the double stack through him.
Okay. All right. I think that's it for this game. I will say Evan Ingram to me looks really good. Like he's just been, like Davis said, like the target share has been
more owned than Taysom. I think.
You think so? Is he really?
Right now, I see him as the most owned tight end of the slate.
Okay. All right. Well, that's I guess one reason to maybe not go there because he's pretty expensive. But he gets targeted so much, and now he's got Trevor Lawrence back. Hard to really poke too many holes in it. Okay. Titans at Commanders. The Titans have an implied team total of 19. That's tied for 27th out of 32 teams on the slate. Commanders implied team total 25.5. That's tied for 6th best on the slate. Davis, do you like anybody from the Titans or the Commanders?
I don't really like Pollard with Spears back. Not that he is any worse, but he just plays less. So he's just less likely to run into one of these crazy volume games. Daniels, so it's like, yeah, conceptually, like I like the idea of a low-owned Daniels, but any lineup where I could get that, I'd rather just do a low-owned Lamar or Hurts. Like if I'm spending the money, and I don't MME, so I only play like 10 teams or something. So I would just rather get to Hurts or Lamar. I think they're a standard deviation better of a play. The question is Brian Robinson Jr. going to play? And is he going to play his full role? Because if he doesn't, they cut Chris Rodriguez 2 weeks ago, and they're going to sign him back. I believe he's already back. But we know from how they played, they like McWeapon quite a bit. And the thing I think they like about him is he can do either role. So he can sub in and do the Brian Robinson Jr. role, or he can do the Eckler stuff. And obviously Eckler's been great, and McNichols is not nearly as good. But I kind of like McNichols, and I would be, if Brian Robinson Jr. does not play, I would be jamming McNichols. And then Noah Brown is 4,400, which normally wouldn't matter much, but again, just cheap wide receivers are kind of hard to find. He has more targets than McLaurin over the last 6 weeks of the season with a high ADOT, which means that if he ever does actually have a good game, like if he ever does catch one that's not a Hail Mary, it's going to be like 6 for 112 and 1. I believe he still leads the NFL in defensive pass interference yards gained. I need to look that up, but I believe he still does lead.
It has to be Josh Palmer after that game, man. Just like every pass was a pass interference on Josh Palmer. That was frustrating. So to be clear, David, sounds like you like McWeapon better than Gus Edwards. If
yes. Oh,
right.
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. And he's just so much more versatile.
Yeah. Like just getting passes, those PPR points.
He's gotten goal line work. Like he's gotten goal line work with the other guys active.
Yep.
The thing, I just can't, this is like such a dynasty virgin thing, but like McNichols was so good in college.
Dude, he was so good.
Like 9 years ago, man, you should have seen this guy. He had 2,200 scrimmage yards and 30 touchdowns at Boise State. Yeah, he was so good. I don't know why it never happened for him. I don't know why he's having an age 29 breakout.
He was a 5th round pick. It gets cut. He doesn't even make the Bucks roster as a 5th round pick. It was a terrible start to his career. Yeah. I mean, the fact that he's 5th round pick tells you a lot.
And then it's kind of a terrible later stage, too.
Terrible middle as well. Yeah. It's been pretty bad.
He's older than Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, my God.
Is he really?
I loved him coming out, man.
Yeah,
Loved him.
We all
coming out.
did.
Maybe you were right, and you were just early. You were just early on McWeapon.
That's how I feel about most of my opinions.
I feel like I'm still. You don't know how much I liked him. Like he could blow up this week, and I'd
like
still
I
be
liked him
early.
so much. I'm holding on to these priors from 9 years ago about him.
Yeah. I still care about his prospect profile 9 years later. Yeah.
Pat, how about you? Do you like anybody from? Do anybody from the Titans? I mean, it is Pollard. So, I wrote. I don't know. Tell me your thoughts.
You said you weren't that into Pollard.
Spears is back, so it's not that I think Spears like takes a bunch of the work. He just plays less. He scales back to like 65% of the snaps.
I know that's possibly correct, and maybe it's maybe the most likely outcome. But like, this is like the run funnel. You run on the Commanders, and I'm not worried about Spears at all as far as like rushing production or even attempts. Like I think it could be one of those things like Derrick Henry's snap share highest all year, 65%. Okay. It doesn't matter because they just ride it when they ride him, I think you could have Pollard and it's not Derrick Henry, obviously, but like in a similar sort of way, like he maybe only has 65% of the snaps, but he's not hurting for rushing attempts at all. So I still have plenty of interest in Pollard here, especially if no one's going to play him. Even, if Spears is back, but yeah, Daniels is tricky. Cause I mean, in a vacuum, it's pretty intriguing. Like it's a spot where, you could also pair him with McNichols, I think, just as a bet on some of the, they get the ball out quickly on a lot of their dropbacks. So, but yeah, the most recent game I wrote up was the Eagles and the Ravens. And I generally agree with you, Davis, that it'd be hard to play Daniels over those guys.
That's my final takeaway. I wrote up Daniels as like an MME play just because it looks pretty good. I was like, he might end up being a cash game option somewhere. Is like worth rating him up a little bit. He also has like minimum of 13 fantasy points in all but one of the games that he's finished, like not including the game that he got hurt on the first drive, where he already had 5 fantasy points on that first drive. Like take that out. He scored at least 13 fantasy points in all but one game. So like the floor is really high for Daniels, but just hard to play him over Hurts and Lamar on this slate for me. So I'm same page as you guys there. Calvin Ridley I wrote up just because he's got a good role. Like I feel like he's like always sort of in play. I'm never that excited about playing him, but just an MME play. And that's it. Okay. Cardinals at Vikings. Cardinals have an implied team total of 20.5 that's tied for 22nd of 32 teams. Vikings implied team total 24 that's tied for 11th of 32 teams. Pat, do you like anybody on the Vikings or the Cardinals?
Yeah, I'm pretty into Justin Jefferson here. I mean, it's not been what we were hoping for from Jefferson.
So sick.
Yeah, not the best stretch here. But yeah, you have a Cardinals defense that's pretty exploitable. They don't aggressively double team, which will be nice for Jefferson. He'll see plenty of defensive coverage, but Jamar Chase, Nico Collins, and Amon-Ra St. Brown are the only wide receivers with a higher double coverage rate. So, yeah, I think that my general take with the Vikings has been that Darnold is just a product of this situation, but the situation is so good.
Man, I don't know about that, by the way. I've been watching some of it because I'm fascinated by where does Darnold play next year. So I've just been reading a lot of the discourse. Dude, he is actually like an insane thrower of the football. Like legitimately one of the 5 best guys. Like there was that great cut up last week of the throw he made to Jordan Addison, like between 4 dudes with anticipation. You can't even see it when he throws it. For the Jefferson stuff, Pat, I actually think Darnold has been way better than any of the Jefferson supporters should have had the belief that he could have been. I think he's been very good.
So Darnold's success has been, I talked about this last week, but like he has the highest rate of his throws. I didn't rerun the numbers this week, but last week was like the highest going back to 2017. Highest percentage of his throws. No, on throws lasting 3+ throws of 3+ seconds. So He was sitting back there for 3+ seconds.
A lot of play action.
and he didn't leave the pocket. So just like classic statue, I've called them statue yards. Like Kerry Collins, like think about the kid, Vinny Testaverde, those kind of plays, like who's benefiting the most, because that's like a difficult position to achieve as an offense, and Darnold has really, really benefited from that. But I went back and I was looking at the Jaguars game where he really struggled, and they did not blitz him. And they were able to pressure him.
Drop 7 and say, good luck, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to get to you at the front 4 a little bit, and you're going to be throwing against all our DBs. We're not going to blitz you. Jaguars blitzed him twice all game, but still had 14 pressures in that game. He was also terrible from a clean pocket, so it doesn't fully explain it, but I think it contributed to Jacksonville's success against him. The Cardinals have a terrible pass rush. They have bad pressure rate and a slow time to pressure, but they also blitz at a high rate and give up a ton of efficiency against those blitzes. So the template that I've seen, like with this situation, and maybe you're right, Davis, maybe I'm underestimating Darnold and what he's bringing to the table.
Well, but he's like also a moron too. Like he's not a moron, but his processing is just not that good. So like being able to make all the throws doesn't mean anything if you were just constantly legit. He almost like kind of trusts his arm too much. I mean, Neil, you're a Vikings fan. You see it. This dude just like does love to throw interceptions. It's like
he does. It's his favorite.
He just loves
interceptions.
Yeah.
So you have, I think it's a really good matchup for Darnold, because like if the Vikings are protecting really well, they're 3rd in pass block win rate, they're 5th in PFF's pass block grades, so they're protecting him well. Like this whole dynamic of like if he can hold up against the blitz, if they're going to send the house to get Darnold and the offensive line is holding up and he's able to make plays downfield, which he has the confidence to do, this could be a really good setup for him and for Jefferson. I also think that, with the Vikings, they've still been tilted to the pass, right? Like last week, they had a 61% pass rate on a 55% expected pass rate. 2 weeks ago, 57 on a 50 expected. They're kind of playing Kevin O'Connell ball. They just have these really low expected pass rates every week.
Yep.
The Cardinals are like the most Jekyll and Hyde offense in the league. When they're good, they're really good. When they're bad, they stink. But for like a GPP style thing, like I'm betting on the Cardinals to show up and actually push the Vikings in this game. If they do, I think we could see a really big game from the Vikings passing offense here. So I'm pretty interested in, especially you're playing it through Jefferson. I like that.
Just one time, man.
Just a spike week. That's all Davis needs is one.
Dude, I just need. Jefferson. Do you know what would happen to my advance rates if we just got just a 42 ball from Jefferson?
Yeah. Oh man.
The thing I like about him this week is weirdly you can save salary at every position except for wide receiver. So like using an expensive wide receiver, cheap running back, cheap tight end, cheap defense, cheap quarterback, like very easy to do. None of the guys like project that well, especially the guys over 8K, like AJ Brown and those and Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, like they project worse than the running backs. So if you just run solvers, you're just not going to get that much of them, which, so you just flip it on its head a little bit. You do Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, McWeapon, expensive wide receiver, TJ Hawkinson at tight end, Darnold at quarterback. Boom. You got a shipper. There you go.
I like it because, all of these receivers, they have, like, you could see the game going against them. And it just like them flopping for their salary pretty easily. But like you also, I think Jefferson, Collins, and AJ Brown all have massive ceilings this week. They just need the game script to kind of cooperate.
Yeah.
We need a Marvin Harrison Jr. first quarter, man. We need that. That's what we need.
We need one of those first quarters. We really do.
Times four though.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean from Marvin Harrison himself? I thought you were talking about for
No, we just need Marvin. Yeah. We just need Marvin Harrison
just to get the game going.
Just to get the game going.
I got you. Yeah.
Good call. He's not gonna do anything in the fourth quarter.
Right, obviously, beyond the first quarter, he just
that obviously would be insane.
That would be nuts, Neil.
But if they can score a touchdown in the first quarter, force the Vikings to throw a little bit. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm in for Jefferson spike week. I just as we were talking about prior to the show, we're at the point in the season of the best ball season where you're no longer looking at like, oh, this is my exposure to a player. Now you're looking at just specific teams that have him. And I think I have a couple bubble teams with Jefferson, so I'm with you. I think I need a spike week out of Jefferson, and I like the matchup for it. I think it's it's not the cake matchup I thought it was going to be coming into the year, but it's still
what Arizona does is they bend, don't break.
Yeah.
So they are very good at limiting. I mean, it's just kind of classic 80s style defense, like they do. I saw this the other day. They've been doing some 3 high safety stuff, which is, I mean, that is like, that's like college football, like classic. So I don't know, man. Come on, dude.
I'm also worried about the Cardinals side of this. Like the Vikings have a really good run defense. They have a good pass defense, but like the worst thing you could do is go real conservative and run the ball into the teeth of the run defense. And you don't have like that great of a running game. It's good. It's not like amazing. But like the Cardinals are totally down to do that. Like especially with Kyler coming off a bad game, like they could kind of self-sabotage here. And so it just makes me nervous. But it's a very boom bust setup for if you're betting on passing weapons from the Vikings side, because you could see. I mean, I think Aaron Jones is a decent play, by the way, because you could see them lean on him here.
Yeah. No, I thought on the Viking side, Darnold, Jones, Jefferson, Hawkinson. I think even like just given that we saw Hawkinson's biggest week last week in terms of route participation,
and Oliver's already ruled out.
Okay, yeah, so that helps.
Back.
Yeah, like he's fully back at this point, and pretty cheap. Like he's only 4,400 on DraftKings, 6,500 on FanDuel. So I think Hawkinson I like all of them. Kyler, I think Kyler's in play at 6,100. Anybody take issue with that? What do you think, Kyler?
It just feels like the exact type of defense that just really gives him fits. Just like interior pressure, send him crazy blitzes. Like, I love Kyler. It's my Oklahoma fellow short king, but I mean, that's why I think if Jefferson fails in this game, it'll be because Kyler just can't get anything going. And then we've talked about this. We've talked about this before, but like when you remove the threat of the run game for Arizona, the whole Petzig experience falls apart. They just can't do anything. Once like they're down 10 points, it's pretty much over.
Yeah. I'm pretty nervous about the Cardinals just blowing this, because it's and by blowing it, I mean, I guess both in real life, but also from the fantasy perspective, the potential for the Vikings to attack aggressively through the air. They just might not need to because the Cardinals are struggling so bad.
Yeah. Trey McBride, I think is fine. It's actually kind of again, not an exceptional tight end slate in my opinion. Like I don't see anybody. I know Taysom looks good, but
there are 10 tight ends below 5,000 who are better points per dollar values than any wide receiver below 5,000.
I mean, good point. It's an even worse wide receiver slate. It's just
miserable. Miserable. DraftKings, please, dude.
They tighten up the
Jordan Addison's like 7,900 this year.
Yeah, right. Can't play Jordan Addison. Yeah. I think, McBride in play. If he can just score a touchdown at some point, a receiving touchdown for Trey McBride, I'm begging.
He's the only tight end this year with multiple 100-yard games.
He's really good. He's a really good tight end.
He's really good.
He just can't score touchdowns through the air.
Between the 20s, he's basically Tony Gonzalez. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I also think with the Cardinals, they should have an emphasis on getting the ball out quickly. McBride has been their go-to guy, as you would expect on quick throws, but he has a good targets per route run. Normally, it jumps to 32% on quick throws. Up from an already very high 26%. 26% under on all routes is 98th percentile among tight ends. So 32% targets per outrun on those quick throws. I think if they're able to get something consistently going, it's hard to see how Trey McBride isn't catching a ton of balls.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Indianapolis Colts at New England Patriots. Colts have an implied team total of 22.5. That's tied for 17th on the slate or on the week. Patriots implied team total of 20. That's 25th out of 32 teams. Pat, do you like anybody? Are you playing any Drake May this week? Anybody else you like on the Patriots? And how about the Colts?
Let me see. I played some May last week, which didn't work out. I mean, I think if you were going to play the quarterback here, it's probably Anthony Richardson more than May.
He's going to be the most owned quarterback of the slate. Him or Herbert.
But like it's quarterbacks never get out of control. So
true.
I think this week it might.
Really?
I think this because it's sort of bizarre. I ran a set of sims earlier, 150 teams. I've never seen this before. I got 17 quarterbacks returned in plus EV lineups. So it's just very flat. And when it's flat like that, what you see happen is people go to the rushers. When it's all really flat, they're like, Stafford, whatever. They go to the guys with rushing. So that's like Richardson and Herbert, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah, I guess the other thing with the Patriots, it's kind of interesting. I was looking at, they've been horrible against intermediate throws. And I've highlighted them the last couple of weeks in the walkthrough against the Rams and the Dolphins. Like, you can really rack up catches over the deep middle of the field and like 10 plus yards down the field. Not even just like not 40 like Richardson tends to go. You just like hit them consistently. The Dolphins had I believe it was 5 first downs on those throws, which tied for the season high. Like the Patriots had no idea the Dolphins are going to do this. It's like the point of their entire offense. Just absolute abysmal defensive planning by the Patriots. But they're not like that bad against 20 plus yard throws. Now it's like small sample stuff because there's not that many 20 plus yard throws in any given week, but it is like I think they're more susceptible to a quarterback coming in and picking them apart than just like they're not like constantly suffering these like letdowns on like big deep throws. So that would be like a little bit of the cold water on Richardson. Plus they'll probably be run heavy. That's pretty easy to assume. At the same time, I mean this defense is so soft. So I think I have to play at least one Richardson lineup. I think it's pretty nice at 5,500.
Will you be stacking Richardson in that lineup?
I'm like the world's like probably least enthusiastic Michael Pittman guy, but I mean Downs is out. Yeah, he's I think he's very stackable with Pittman. And
Mitchell is like the one salary relief guy you can find now.
Yeah, Mitchell at 3,900. Mitchell's been really good when on the field.
He's the number 1 targets per route run player in the National Football League, minimum 150 routes.
Yeah.
He projected so well, so poorly that I didn't even write it. Like I thought about it. I was like, do I need to write up AD Mitchell here? Like but of course this is early on in the slate. So I was like, there's probably better value that'll open up later. But I was like, point per dollar, he doesn't look great. Like his projection is not great, but I had the thought of like, I feel like I'm missing something here. So you're thinking that AD Mitchell is in play with Downs out, probably should see. Okay.
I do. I mean,
probably my favorite value play of the slate.
Okay.
99th percentile in open score this year. And targets per out run 27%. Like this dude is like that to me. I'm like, you're getting, here's a metric that says you're getting open. Here's another metric that says you're peppered with targets whenever you're on the field. Like,
right.
Maybe you're wide open. So yeah, I mean, he just doesn't run a lot of routes, and that's been real consistent. He's completely behind Alec Pierce. He's had no shot of replacing Alec Pierce, not even come close to replacing Alec Pierce at any point this year. I guess like because Downs is out, he's mostly opening up slot routes. So like maybe he doesn't play as much. I mean, Downs has run 85% of his routes in the slot, 99th percentile among receivers. Doesn't really get higher than that. Mitchell's at 27%, Pierce is at 17%, Pittman's at 24%. So like it would make sense, I think, to like rotate Mitchell and Pittman into the slot and have Pierce, Mitchell, and Pittman be your guys. But I guess it's possible we see a 4th wide receiver come in here and take over some of those slot duties.
Well,
in which case Mitchell
banged up too.
Who?
Ashton Doolin is banged up too.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's good for Mitchell then. That would be what makes me nervous is that like there's usually a reason when listen, I was pretty into Jalen Reagor as a rookie, and he didn't play much, and it turns out there was a reason for that. When you see these guys who aren't seeing the field, it can be an indicator in its own right. But he's been so good when on the field that it's hard not to be interested in him as a punt.
Yeah, take some shots there. Anybody, Davis, do you like anybody that we have not talked about already on the Colts or the Patriots?
No, but I do just want to hammer in the Doolin thing that he's out and that Downs is out, which means like not really seeing much way Mitchell does not play in this game. Maybe Mike Strachan comes back from whatever he's doing. I don't know. I couldn't
see
name
more two tight end stuff. Maybe
they did do that 2 weeks ago, so definitely possible. But their tight end.
Mitchell's going to have like 60% route participation at a minimum, and he should be in more like 75, 80 even.
Correct.
So I mean, he's normally down at like 15.
Right.
Know?
All right. Hondo P.
Hunter Henry, I guess, is the only other. Usually that Pat calls out Hunter Henry. So I'll do the obligatory. Yeah, Hunter Henry looks pretty good. He's only 5,100 on FanDuel, so that's where he really stands out. Is great value play on FanDuel, but 44 targets on 74% route participation in 7 games with Drake May. So looks pretty good there. Okay.
I also do think May is a viable play.
I almost wrote
out
May.
To me. Yeah, but he's definitely viable.
Like he runs enough, and like it's not a bad matchup. So I'm with you. Like May is playable. Steelers.
We stop Paul starting every play. Patriots, so that'd be helpful.
Yeah, right. Steelers at Bengals. Steelers implied team total 22.5. That's tied for 17th on the week. Bengals implied team total of 25. That is 9th out of 32 teams on the week. Davis, how we feeling about the Bengals and or Steelers?
Like someone at DraftKings fell asleep at the wheel, man. Chase Brown, 6,200. So I just have a blended projection thing pulled up right here. I've got Chase Brown as the 4th highest projected total running back of the slate. He is not given up a single touch since Zach Moss went to IR. I think Zach Taylor can do a lot of lip service to giving other guys the ball, but if Zach Taylor and his team loses this game, they are done. They are eliminated from playoff contention. Zach Taylor probably loses his job if they don't make the playoffs this week. I think it's pretty easy on Tuesday to talk about giving Travion Williams the ball. I think it's a lot harder on Sunday, down 3 points to the Pittsburgh Steelers, to give Travion Williams the ball. I think we probably see 22 to 28 Chase Brown touches in this game. I will just play 100% of him, and if I don't win, I don't win. But I think he should be $8,000 with this workload. He really should.
Matchup in theory at all? Like I saw the Steelers matchup, and I was like, oh god, this is going to take me because I have so much Chase Brown. I have him in my eliminator team that I'm cheering for. I have him in best ball. I'm like, damn it, they're facing the Steelers. This is the one spot that it's going to be really tough for Chase Brown to get it going. But you think that just like the touches outweighs that, like he's just going to
you get the passing down stuff. So if they can't find anything going, then I mean he's 3rd on the team in targets too.
True.
I believe he's got a 21% target share since Zach Moss got injured. So it's just like. Yeah, I mean, it could be, the game against the Chargers, he didn't score, right? So he didn't score, didn't get 100 yards, and I think he had 22 points. So it's just like,
kind of insane.
Of course he can fail. Anyone can fail. But if you just are looking at it objectively, I don't see how he could do poorly here.
I also am not like that afraid of the Steelers' run defense. I think the bigger issue with the Steelers is that they have a really good pass rush, and the Bengals are not pass blocking that well. They're 26th in pass block win rate, 24th in pass block grade. So you could have Burrow under pressure. The offense is struggling. But I think in that case, they're probably pivoting to the run a little bit more, and Brown's getting his. So it's tough to see Brown completely failing. It'd be one thing if he was 8,000, but he's 6,200. So he looks like a really strong play, even if he is the massive chalk that we're expecting him to be. I like him. I mean, I do think you can play the Burrow stuff as well. Like the Steelers do have a good defense for sure, but I think both Higgins and Chase look pretty interesting to me here.
Higgins looks like one of the better like point per dollar values on the slate. I struggle with it because I keep on thinking like, well, clearly Jamar Chase is the alpha here, right? Like he's the best receiver, but like hasn't really been the case with T Higgins in this year. So am I just wrong? Like, is T Higgins right there? Is it like a 1A 1B, like not even a separation there kind of situation? You have a preference between Higgins and Chase?
I tend to think from a real life perspective that it is not a 1A, 1B, and that what is happening is that teams are saying, you're not beating us with Jamar Chase, who has the highest double coverage percentage in the league at 39%. And they're saying, I guess if you're going to beat us, it has to be with T Higgins, who's been double covered 24% of the time, 46th percentile. So Higgins has been really good. I'm not trying to say he's not good. You don't have a 2.27 yards per out run if you're not good. But the fact that Chase has 2.39 yards per out run with the highest double coverage rate in the entire NFL, he's still the guy. It's still Chase.
Yeah,
that's how I view it. But I mean, for fantasy, like, does that matter? Because like, I think that if teams are going to force you to play kind of like half left hand, but it turns out like the Viking, basically, I think the Bengals basically are being forced to play left handed, but maybe they're ambidextrous. Is really what it is.
Yeah, good call. I would just like to say Davis brought up Travion Williams. There was no specific quote about Travion Williams this week. It was, we want to get other guys involved. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed for Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert is going to be the guy who gets 4 touches this week.
Normally you know, there's a caveat to Davis says, no one has gotten a touch. Normally if there's like a caveat to that sort of thing, it undermines it. In this case, it actually bolsters Davis's point. There was sort of a touch. It was a fumble.
It was credited to Burrow, though. The way it worked.
Oh, was it?
It
should have been. It should have been. It was Burrow's fault.
But it was Herbert's fault.
Yeah.
It was his only touch.
Gets one touch with the new team, and they're like, nope, going back to Chase Brown, every single touch for the rest of eternity.
That's
Maybe what I need for my Herbert bags is for the Bengals to be out of playoff contention. They're just like, yep,
honestly,
go fumble it away, buddy.
No, dude, if they're out of contention, you have Jake Browning checking down at Khalil Herbert. I mean, that might be what you need.
Oh man, let's go.
Damn,
Although I also have a ton of Chase Brown and Jamar Chase and all. Yeah, so
Joe Burrow is kind of carrying the teams that of mine that are getting through. So I'm a Bengals fan.
You are really rooting against the Steelers.
Yeah,
I mean, I just like the thing is like I think Higgins and Chase super shut it down. Because they're not paid, man.
Right.
So
what is their
team
incentive?
that's not in playoff contention, I don't know how you get it's just not fair to be like, hey, T Higgins, go play, even though you have no guaranteed money if we it's crazy.
Yeah.
I do think that the Bengals are like the one team in the entire league that's really pressing the issue with the pass. And I think we could see them still be aggressive here. Steelers 23rd in preventing explosive plays, 18th in protecting the splash zone. They do have a really good pass rush, but like the 15th in PFF's coverage grades. I'm not like terrified of the Steelers defense here. I think the Bengals could be pretty productive. Also, just from a real life perspective, I think Russ might struggle. Russ has been such a negative regression candidate looking at his success rate versus EPA. It's a joke. Like, he's playing so far above where you would expect him to in a way that does not look sustainable to me. So I'm kind of just like pro Bengals in this matchup.
Nice. Any like Najee Harris? I wrote it up just because it was like somebody like the Bengals defense isn't very good.
No, it's terrible.
So somebody needs to be playable here from the Steelers, but nobody really stands out from a projection standpoint at all. So I wrote up Najee Harris, but like, is it Jalen Warren time? Like maybe if the Bengals get ahead, maybe they go to more Jalen Warren through the air. Do we like anybody at all on the Steelers?
Pickens.
Yeah, Pickens is a star. So,
but he's like 7,000 or something now. Like maybe that's fair price. I don't know.
It's fair. He's been awesome. I don't have much interest in Najee. 6,000 is just that's too expensive for his talent and role. Warren, I don't have much interest in either. It's frustrating as someone who bet heavy on Warren at the beginning of the year. Like, if you're if this was week 3, I would be so excited. I'm like, by the end of the year, he's taken this job. But he was hurt all year, and he hasn't been that good. He's been like way better than Najee recently, but still like not to the level where he's going to like flip someone quickly.
Right.
So maybe another couple weeks we talk about Warren legitimately flipping Harris, but for now, I think it's like a split where we were like, the Warren side of the split's way more fun. How about you do more of that? But, they don't.
Yeah, right. All right. Moving on to the Seattle Seahawks at New York Jets. Seahawks have an implied team total of 22. That's tied for 19th on the week. Jets implied team total 20.5. That's tied for 22nd on the week. Pat, are we doing anything with the Seahawks or the Jets?
Breece Hall looks pretty good here. That's probably
who would have looked really good here if Breece decided not to play. Braylon Allen would have looked pretty good, brother.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think to me he's like the only comfy play here. Missed time, but has been back at practice. So snap shares 81% and 85% over the last 2 weeks. Just really locked in. Got a mediocre run defense on tap. Should be involved in the passing game as well. So the advantage you have if you're thinking about like, Devontae Adams or Garrett Wilson, or whatever, is that it's been so concentrated recently. Last 4 games, Adams has had a 29% target share, Wilson 27, Breece 17, combining for 73% of the Jets' targets. So you do have that working to your advantage. But yeah, most interested in Breece here.
Okay. Davis?
No Jets for me, man. They mailed it in. They're not about it. I like Walker. It's like a terrible quote unquote spot. West Coast team traveling east, like all this stuff. But the Seahawks defense is getting really healthy. They dominated. They dominated the Cardinals last week, and you think about the hire they made. McDonald, much more of a defensive guy. It's kind of running the ball and defense. That's like every time they do the press conference, even with Grubb is all about running the ball too. Like he's like, dude, Jackson Smith and Jigba, DK Metcalf. I don't want to talk about any of that. I just want to
never heard of them.
Just want to talk about Ken Walker. I mean, it was something that was happening in the preseason too that got me so woke to Walker was they'd ask Ryan Grubb about Walker, and he'd be like, "Oh my God, this guy! He's going to be the godfather of my children." Like he loved this dude.
Yeah.
So I think Walker is actually an awesome play because he projects good but not great. We've got like Bijan, we've got Kamara, we've got Kerrane, we've got Chase Brown, we've got Buccaneers, we got all these guys. And it's just like, Cards are going to turn over. He's going to be 11%. He's going to get 19 rushes against a team that is just legitimately quit playing.
And terrible against the run and is a major run funnel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good call. I like some Kenneth Walker. I wrote up Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson as playable, but not priorities for me either. Not much to love in that game. Los Angeles Rams. Oh, sorry. Pat, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
But just on Walker, last week he got the Cardinals. He had 2.6 yards per carry, -7 rush yards over expected. He's at -49 rush yards over expected over his last 4 games, fallen to -5 on the season. So that's, it's tough. You have to like zoom out on Walker, but I agree that we should zoom out. He has a lot of upside if he plays anything like he was at the beginning of the season in this matchup.
Yep.
He almost, by the way, broke the long one last week, and the safety like just kind of knocked his leg out, but he was like he had a 75-yard touchdown.
Anything else from this game?
Nope.
All right. Los Angeles Rams at New Orleans Saints. Rams have an implied team total of 26. That's tied for 4th out of 32 teams this week. Saints implied team total 23.5. That's tied for 14th. Davis, I know you have some interest in the Saints, presumably also the Rams. Tell me about your level of interest in the Rams and the Saints.
Taysom Hill had a game where he scored 3 rushing touchdowns and had 138 rushing yards. He also had 10 targets in that game. He also had 7 snaps as a quarterback in that game. And what did his coach say after the game? that's kind of where we want to be on offense right now. Just like directionally, we want to be giving Taysom the ball a ton. He's 5,000 DraftKings dollars. I mean, what price would Taysom have to be where you weren't just like, well, yeah, he's probably just the best play at tight end? I guess like 6,100. I'd be like, well, he can always fail and touchdown variance and whatever. But like, he's like a fine tight end anyway. Like he's getting the tight end stuff anyway. And then he's a running
no
back.
joke. He actually is priced below Jordan Addison. I mean,
no joke.
Yeah,
no joke is priced below Jordan Addison.
That's kind of nuts.
Yeah. So I think he's basically the best play of the slate, which is then related to Alvin Kamara being the highest projected running back of the slate. But I promise you're going to turn the cards over in your contest on Sunday, and he's going to be like 11% owned, not 25% owned. And if the touchdown variance goes his way, ship it. He's the guy you need to have, because the workload for him is great. He just has not been scoring touchdowns.
Wait, who's going to be 11% owned?
Kamara. Every week, he's projected to be 22%, and he's like 13% at best.
I mean, the projections can be pretty good this week. It's tough to. The Rams' huge run funnel. Now, I mean, that could be Taysom, but to some extent, but like you can run all over the Rams. So, yeah, Kamara. If there's any chance, like he's an amazing play. If he comes in sub 15, like an amazing play.
Like point per dollar, he is like a slam dunk. He's going to be in every cash lineup. Just like looks incredible. I'd be kind of surprised if he comes in that low owned, but I'm into it for sure. Taysom looks amazing. Like 22 fantasy points per game over the past 3 weeks. Kamara looks amazing. What about the Rams side?
Puka, baby.
Just Puka? No Kerrane, no Kupp, Stafford?
Kerrane is like such the Drew Dinkmeyer, Michael Leone. Like his role hasn't changed at all. The touchdown variance just hasn't gone in his favor. Like Leone will win the Thunderdome with Kerrane, and that's fine, and I'll be happy for him. I'll be over here with my Taysom Hill, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, all slappy lineup, and that'll be okay with me.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Like when Leone wins Thunderdome with Kerrane, it will make a lot of sense because the Saints are terrible against the run. But that's probably not how I will play it. I'd rather play it through Puka as well. He's been so good.
So good.
Over the last 3 weeks, 35% target share. Kupp is at 27%, which is still great. But he's got 3.18 yards per route run, which is basically in line with what you would expect for his ADOT, because he has a 34% targets per route run this year, which is nuts. 27% first read target rate. Both those numbers lead the NFL. And the Saints don't have a pass rush, and they're not that great in the secondary. So, like, Stafford's whole thing and the Rams' whole thing with Stafford is that, like, they can't really protect him. They're 30th in pass block rate and 31st in time to pressure. And I think the offense has been built to kind of like not get exposed. Like they kind of know that they can't give Stafford much time to throw in most matchups, and so they have to operate like that. But in this matchup, they should have time to throw. Saints are 27th in time to pressure, 27th in pass in pressure rate. So McVay's smart enough to say, I'm going to have a little extra time this week. What am I going to do with it? And I think what he might do with it is get Puka Nacua the ball.
So I wrote up, I didn't have a single MME only play in this game. I had 6 targets from this game, all of, I think, Matthew Stafford, Kyren Williams, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, even though he's not as good as Nacua, like 75 targets in 7 games. Like still has an awesome role. And then Alvin Kamara, Taysom Hill. Like I just think this is one of those games that's like there are so many players that look awesome for their price. Probably don't want to play all 6 of them in a lineup, although I guess maybe you could. I don't know. But looks like one of the games to target, I think. We got a super chat, so I want to give a shout out to Ego Prime says, cheers, boys. You three are weekly gold. I hope 24 finishes out strongly for all three of you. Really appreciate that. Very kind of you to send us a super chat. That's always awesome to see. Appreciate you. All right. Anything else on this? Any disagreement about
I just
targeting
never
that?
I never play Stafford. And this actually feels like a spot like quarterback is just weird enough that you could like, sure,
Yeah.
he gets 22 points. He gets the bonus. He also, I did see, how long has he been a Ram? 5 years. He's been a Ram. Totally.
Davis.
I was looking at some of the worst wide receivers in the NFL this morning, just for something else, like worst yards per route run, worst start, and like Robinson was on every list, and I was like, great, but they don't know about the end zone though.
Yeah.
Oh, Stafford has more 4 touchdown games since Puka returned from his injury than the same amount of 4 touchdown games as the prior 4 years of his career before with the Rams.
Yeah.
That's
So I feel like we've had the conversation, maybe not on this show, but I've had the conversation with people before. Like, well, Stafford never really shows upside. It's like his receivers get there, but like they never.
I think he does
Stafford
now because of Puka. Like when it was Cooper Kupp before, Robert Woods was the second guy, and like Robert Woods was a fine second guy, but respectfully, he was not Puka Nacua.
No. Well, so my note was you got both Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua both came back in week 8. In the past 5 games, 20.5 fantasy points per game for Stafford. Like he's just been really good in the past 5 games.
And they've stopped the Binky, the Kerrane Binky has kind of been taken away from McVay. They don't get to the 3-yard line and go, oh, we got to get Kerrane his touchdown here.
So there have been multiple Rams showdown slates where I've recommended Blake Corum because they keep showing little glimpses of like, oh, looks like they are going to give him a drive now, and then it's just he got one drive.
He gets the third drive of every game, but
like not even the full drive.
McVay's like, nope, I like the current stuff.
He gets the third drive, and everyone runs to Twitter, and they're like, oh my god, Kerrane got benched.
It's happening.
And then I have to tweet out every week, Corum always gets the third drive.
There's something that happens like to our brains around the 90th percentile mark of snap share. Where like when you start to
you're not on the field.
When you get used to a guy playing that much, when you see anyone but that guy, you assume he like had a 50% snap share. Yeah.
No, I do that with the Chiefs. Anytime Worthy is not on the field, I'm like, oh god, this is it. It's over. He's been benched for it's McCall Hardman. It's just done. It's over. He's gone. It's over.
Yeah.
And then he'll be back on the field on the next play. But with Worthy, it actually could happen. So
yeah. No, Kerrane, because I looked up Kerrane like the last few weeks, and he's been like in the 90s. Like he's still in the exact same role. To Leone and Dink's point there.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. I mean, I could just show you. I did not watch Establish the Show this week, but I can just I can tell you.
You can just tell
MVS
just cite
has
points for sure.
MVS has like the worst type of role in football where he's on the field all the time. He never gets any targets. But when he does catch his targets, he's kind of DeMarcus Robinson-y. I guess he gets 15 points when he does catch his targets.
The other thing is that, so I was like, all right, he's got 3 touchdowns over his last 2 games. I like have to write him up now in the walkthrough. Like I'd been ignoring him, but I was like, this does actually look like a matchup where the Rams are going to be focused on shutting down Kamara. They have terrible run defense. The Saints are going to like look to play action off of that and attack deep. Like this is kind of a good setup for MVS. If the MVS thing that's been happening, like this isn't the spot where I'd be like, well, it can't happen here. This is like the exact spot where this would happen. So I don't think I'm going to do anything with that information, but
okay,
we could get another long touchdown.
Yeah, right. I'm probably not playing him, but yeah, I guess you can. We talked about how weak the value is at wide receiver, so I guess there's a case for him.
No, completely.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
This looks like 3 guys who are going to go hang out at the Bass Pro Shop after this.
This is the most
we
Bass
are dressed.
Pro Shop.
This is very Bass Pro Shop.
Right.
Yeah, the North Face and 2 flannels.
It's cold in my basement, and I don't really want to turn the heat on that high. So
it's cold in Minnesota, believe it or not. All right,
I do believe it.
Next game up. Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Carolina Panthers. Bucks have an implied team total of 26. That's tied for 4th out of 32 teams. Panthers 20.5. That's tied for 22nd. Pat, are you liking anything on the Bucks against the Panthers or the Panthers?
Bucky Irving, really strong play. Chuba Hubbard, very strong play. I mean, Jonathan Brooks had like 8% of snaps. He had one route, 2 attempts. They're playing Chuba. So I think he's pretty good. Mike Evans is pretty interesting to me at 6,700. The Panthers are just bad on defense. So it's up to you. Like, you decide how to beat the Panthers. We could see the Buccaneers, who have been tilted to the pass this year, ignore the run funnel nature of this matchup, because the Panthers are one of those run funnels where it's like you don't have to run on them. They're 31st in EPL per rush and dead last in rushing success rate against. Most teams, given that opportunity, will just pound the rock because it's sort of like the path of least resistance. That's safe. You're going to get out of there with a win. But the Bucs, they're looking at a pass defense that's 31st in EPL upper dropback and 30th in dropback success rate against, and have been not like deeply committed to the pass, but definitely lean that way. And then obviously with Evans back, more confident in what Baker can do here. So it's like a little bit of a leap of faith, but I think Evans is also pretty interesting here. I'm assuming
he played 75% of the snaps in the first quarter last week, which I did not think. I thought he was going to be really limited last week, and he was not. Someone just asked about the McMillan breakout game. So the issue with McMillan is he just probably is not very good. We tried. It looks like all the UW guys are bad. McMillan ran the most routes, played the most snaps of any Bucs wide receiver last week. 2 targets.
It's not great.
Yeah, Rome looks like he's a professional receiver, but like if that's the ceiling.
Yeah, guy. a real DeMarcus Robinson type.
yeah.
So you admit he's a professional receiver?
Oh, DeMarcus Robinson is a Super Bowl champion, buddy.
That's right.
He's a professional wide receiver.
He's actually made the playoffs every single season of his career. Don't know if
people
you know
do
that.
forget.
People forget.
People do forget.
Yeah. What about Rachaad White? Like maybe lower ownership than Bucky.
So like Neil, in the stuff you play, he actually probably is like insanely good, because I have a feeling that this is I have a feeling that the slappies are going to slap so hard that Bucky might end up being more owned than Chase Brown. I have a feeling the slappies could get him to like 30%.
I could see that, man.
Absolutely,
I could definitely see that.
In which case, Rachaad White is awesome leverage. It does appear that Bucky like has the lead role there, but like Rachaad White still has a role.
Sure, and he could score twice. The touchdowns between those guys have basically been random.
Yeah. Yep.
The other thing is that like Bucky looks so much better when he runs that like you almost would take like 18 points from Bucky instead of like 26 Rachaad White points, just because they're so gross.
Yeah. Although when they just cut to the game, 1 and 7 look very similar in Buccaneers font. I mean, obviously you can tell who is who.
You can tell right away. But it just, if you look at the backfield, you can't always tell. You know what could be really tilting for the Bucky slappies is that like Sean Tucker could steal some rushing work.
Yep.
And so you get like a Sean Tucker touchdown.
He was on pace to be really annoying last week until he fumbled.
Oh, is that? I didn't realize he fumbled. He
fumbled at the 1 yard line.
Okay.
That explains it. Then he got benched.
Yep. And they had been talking about that too. Like I warned people about that, maybe on this show, about how like, well, the coach pick is like, we want to get Sean Tucker involved some, and then sure enough, that actually happened.
It was the coach was being true. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was telling the truth.
Huh. Kate Otten, I thought Kate Otten is like, I made the case for him last week. Like if Mike Evans is limited at all, but now it's like his prices come down enough that I'm like, well, he got 38 targets over 4 games without Mike Evans. Like maybe they like don't want to put the genie back in the bottle. I forget what I think Pat might have used this phrase last week. I don't know.
Pandora back in the box.
Yeah. Maybe
I don't even like Kate Otten, but he is like a really good play because he's like super leverage on a bunch of expensive guys, and he's super leverage on all the other tight ends who's priced around him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also just think like this is one of those things in retrospect that could look really obvious. Like Buccaneers like to pass, they get an incredibly good passing matchup, they pass successfully.
Leverage on super chalky running game too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
By the way, you mentioned the coach speak, and it reminded me. Wanted to shout out Coach Speak Index, who had a little note here from the Thanksgiving slate. At one point in October, he noted that Ben Johnson alluded to the possibility of Penei Sewell throwing a pass at
I saw that
this season.
Insane.
And
it really happened.
They tried to do it yesterday.
Yeah,
anyway.
they tried.
We should talk about
There's good nuggets in there.
We should talk about David Moore real quick.
Yep.
He is right now on Friday the highest projected owned wide receiver of the slate. This is Kayshon Boutte all over again. Not in the sense that he's like a terrible play, but nothing changed in his role. I think everyone's reacting to Coker being out, but he's been over 85% of the routes for a month now. The thing that's different is that Bryce Young is not playing bad. So if you think Bryce Young can play well, then Leggett, then Thielen, these guys, they're all in play. I'm not changing my prior on Bryce Young after one game. Now, if your prior is different than mine, if you thought the Canales thing is going to work, he's got like yada yada, then you should be into it. But I don't think he's that good, basically. I just think he's still probably quite bad.
I think he's probably bad too, but he is coming off his second most efficient game of his entire career. And his third most efficient game was 3 weeks ago against the Saints. So like we're moving like in maybe like a functional direction. And then like David Moore, another guy I didn't really like want to have to write up, but I was like, you now forced my hand. He has the highest targets per out run of the Leggett Thielen trio. He's at 18%. It's not that high. Legett's at 17. Thielen's at 15. I also assume that Thielen will play more. He was up in the 90s in route participation earlier in the season, and that could come directly from David Moore. But speaking of the coach speak stuff, I was looking at that, and there was like a ton of notes in there about David Moore. They're just like really psyched about him. I guess Canales said he was like playing through something in that he said, talking about his availability, he finds a way to be out there on the field. He works at it. I'm now just reading right from the Coach Speak Discord.
Yeah.
He takes practice very seriously. He's a guy you can just count on. So I'm really proud of what he represents and that he's a part of this team. That doesn't sound like a guy who's going to like drop to 50% of routes this week if Thielen runs more. So I came away being like, yeah, this guy I think is a pretty viable dart throw. I don't really want to play if it's massive chalk, but I get it.
Yeah, well, we'll see where the ownership goes. Maybe other value opens up, and then his ownership comes down by Sunday. We can kind of hope for that. But yeah, seems like one of the better like run backs if you're doing a game stack. Chuba Hubbard, do we have any interest in Chuba now that we've kind of established that Jonathan Brooks maybe isn't a thing?
I don't, again, just because it's such a strong running back slate. But again, I'm from Slappy Nation, so I would just much rather play Bucky Irving, who's like objectively not as good of a play and is in a timeshare. So
yeah, no, I think Chuba's a really strong play.
Chuba Hubbard, Leone-ass play.
Which is a good play for those who don't know. Yeah. Leone-ass plays are typically going to be good plays.
Leone's an incredible defense player.
Leone wins a lot of money. Yeah.
Maybe we should be trying to emulate Leone.
No.
I like losing. I like losing with flair, Neil.
All right, that's fair.
Come on. No, Hubbard. I think Hubbard's not. I think there's a little flair to him. He's in a good matchup, and
you want to talk about a guy who was a very good college player, Chuba Hubbard. So good.
He's running great. Like I think Hubbard's just a good play. I wanted to ask you guys just like theoretically about like the David Moore type of play where like he's 3,500. He should be probably like 4,800. Like, is that like how like versus, at running back, we get guys who might be, 4,500 and they should be 7,000 or they should be, you know what I mean? Like there's not, it does strike me as like it's the way you want to build lineups is demanding that you find someone viable, and he's extremely viable at 3,500. But you know what I'm getting at there?
Yeah.
So the thing that I think you should challenge yourself with is that basically these plays are very good at like 7%. Kayshon Boutte when you're exploiting that variance, but you don't want to just court the insane variance when like a third of the field is also doing it with you.
Yeah.
So like I played Kayshon Boutte a little bit last week because I thought he was a good play last week. He ended up being like 3% or whatever, you know. But like just the idea of a guy who's like gonna get 5 targets and it's basically, does he score a 47-yard touchdown or does he not? It's pretty bad when 32% of your opponents are doing it with you.
Yeah,
True.
I like that way of putting it.
Yep, I think that's exactly right. Just play exploitatively. What is the field doing with somebody like that, especially where it's like he's 3,500, but he could still put up like 4 fantasy points. So it's like, oh, he's got this great role. He'll probably see some targets here, but like he very well, like we can easily see him failing here at 3,500. So I think, yeah, exactly right. Playing the ownership game, playing exploitatively based on what the field is doing makes a lot of sense there. Let's move on. I know we have a hard out in 6 minutes. So, and probably the most important game of the slate. And then finally the FanDuel one, Eagles, Ravens.
It's a soft hard out.
Okay. Good. Eagles implied team total 23.75. That's 13th out of 32 teams this week. Ravens 26.75. That's 3rd out of 32 teams this week. Pat. I forget who I went to first last time. Pat, who do you like on the Eagles and or the Ravens?
So I feel like most likely scenario is that the Eagles run their offense through Saquon Barkley, as they have since their Week 5 bye to an extreme degree. The Eagles have a 50% pass rate. They're running as much as they're passing since Week 5. They've gotten chances to go against teams where you would expect them to maybe pivot to the pass, right? They got the Jaguars, extremely weak pass defense. They didn't care. They ran it a bunch against them. They got the Bengals, who teams have been passing against at a really high rate. Their last 7 non-Eagles opponents have averaged a 66% pass rate against the Bengals. They're a good offense. They tend to be in kind of competitive or negative script. The Eagles had a 38% pass rate against the Bengals. I think the Eagles are going to run the ball a lot here, even though they're going against like the pass funnel. There's really not like that many teams that are profiling. I would say the Ravens are like the only team that are profiling as like a clear-cut, no-brainer pass funnel this year. And it's because they have a great run defense and a bad pass defense. And they also put up points. So you don't have the option of, trying to win 13-10 or something. At the same time, I think you're better off assuming that teams are going to play to their own identity rather than shift to a matchup, especially if that identity is like very clear. And this is about as clear as we have in the league. So, Barkley's going to get his. I expect that he won't be as efficient as he has been. He had 150 rush yards over expected last week. He's got the highest rush yards over expected in the metrics history, besting only himself from 2018. And then Derrick Henry's actually
sounds like a good second round pick. Did we
Sounds
all
like
have
a good second round pick?
Good second round pick.
So
right?
glad we spent. So glad we drafted so much of it.
Obviously, we were on that and did not fade him. No, so he's going to do his thing, but I am tempted by the Hurts AJ Brown stack here. That's where you look at. Look, I know I'm not getting volume. I understand, but we got a 13.98 out with Brown.
No, this is the stack of the week.
3.35 yards per out run.
Stack of the week.
How many targets do I need? If I get seven targets, am I there? Yeah, seven targets, man. That's all.
Yeah,
all I need. I think we can get there. Hurts. Also, you have the potential out for Barkley to do a bunch of damage, but then he gets the tush push stuff. So I'm pretty into it. And then Dallas Goedert, I think, is perfectly viable at 4,300 to tack on.
Love to hear it. So you gave me all these reasons. You set it up as like, hate the Eagles passing game, can't play the Eagles passing game. They're going to run it. That's who they are. And then you come back around to, hell yeah, we're on the same page. We're going to slam Jalen Hurts.
It's limited volume. It's high variance. It's high variance.
Yeah, right.
We're talking about the difference is going to come down to like 2 or 3 targets, like, downfield. Right. Do they connect? But if they connect, we're like talking maybe 60-yard touchdown on one of those,
Yeah. So it sounds like we're all on the same page as far as the Eagles go. Like the passing game looks like really strong play here against this, and like pretty low owned here too. Like AJ Brown coming in sub 10%, Jalen Hurts coming in low owned, Dallas Goedert not getting ownership. So one of my favorite GPP stacks, maybe my favorite GPP stack, and then Saquon just because of who they are, like always playable.
Do you guys expect ownership really at any part of this game? It
Not
doesn't seem like
one
it.
not one player.
That's
Not one.
crazy. Like I know, I mean, I'm sure, the math all works out, but like this is like going to be a really good game.
Right.
It'd be kind of crazy that like no one is catching any ownership. There's no part of it like that. It just seems like an obvious spot to target if that's going to hold.
Yep. So we're all on the same page. What about the Raven side? Do we like anything on the Raven side?
Yeah. I mean, Lamar and Flowers, like we've been waiting.
Lamar and Flowers.
We've been waiting Lamar's whole career to get a guy with a 27% target share.
Right.
We finally have it. And this is just like, this happens a lot in college football where like sometimes games are bigger than the predictive stuff coming into it. Sometimes there just is a larger thing going on that just lends itself to crazy big plays, like things going back and forth. Like Bills Chiefs was never going to be this. Just not the it was a big game, sure, but it wasn't ever going to be like body blows. These guys at the height of their powers, like that wasn't what it was. The Chiefs are kind of like, I mean, Pat is only 28, but it's like this aging lion still trying to keep his spot. He doesn't want to fight a big fight. He wants to play smart.
Yep.
This is like Lamar at the peak of his powers. This is the best Lamar has ever played. This is the best Eagles team that has ever been because they have the explosive running game and Hurts is playing well. I guess they might not have Devonta Smith, which does matter. But basically, like, I just think this is the type of game you look up and like someone just scored a 57-yard touchdown and you like go to the kitchen and go get a drink and you come back and the Ravens are on the 3-yard line. You're like, wait, holy shit, what just happened?
Right.
Like just like the what just happened style game, basically. Like that's kind of my soul read here is I just think this is going to be a crazy game.
I also think with the one reason that Lamar and Flowers are interesting, and they're definitely interesting, is that the Ravens have been in this 2-mode kind of style all year. Like they have kind of two identities. One is to run the ball down your throat from ahead, and one is to be totally fine leaning on Lamar. And we've seen pretty high pass rates and recently from the Ravens. So I could see, it would be surprising if this wasn't a competitive game, and in a competitive script, that's where we've seen the Ravens really lean on Lamar. They've really gone run heavy in games where they've been able to. If they have less than a 60% expected pass rate, they're averaging a minus 13% pass rate over expected. In games with a 60+% expected pass rate, they're only at -2. It's just like completely different styles. We would expect that this is a competitive game, and so we should see that secondary passing heavy style, or at least balanced. Mark Andrews at 3,900.
Yeah.
I know he's going to only run about half the routes.
No.
He's tilting as hell.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
He was last week. I think he was at 56% last week.
Broken arm. Charlie Kohler, broken arm.
Oh, that's right.
Wheels
up for Mark Andrews.
It's likely who's crushing him. I think maybe he was in the 60s and likely was at 56%, which is what I was remembering there. But he's still losing so many routes to
play
likely.
As much 12 personnel if you're in a shootout.
True. That is true. Yeah, I mean Andrews leads all tight ends in open score, as he has done for each of the last 4 years. He's got 3 of the highest 5 scores on record, including this year. The dude's still really good. So if I sound tilted, it's because I drafted a ton of Lamar Andrews stacks, which are still kind of working because he scored 6 touchdowns. Yeah, they're working okay, and
Lamar's crushing. So like that part of it's going really well. Yeah,
right. But man, I still a little tilted by this guy who I feel like could be out here being like a true elite tight end, but they're just not using him enough. But at 3,900, I think I'm willing to do it here.
Yeah. I like that call out too. Anything else from this game?
If no one's going to play the running backs, I think you have to think about it.
I know. I was just going to say, we're all just really hoping that it's not the running backs here. But
yeah, we are what Barkley would be called unreliable narrators.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry. What are you going to say about them?
They're going to get all the work. Yeah. Barkley is going to get a lot of work. I feel confident. Henry, you could see like maybe being phased out like a little bit, because he doesn't have this high snap share. I mentioned it, like he's peaked at 65%. You could see more Justice Hill if it's competitive. I still think Henry's like got a pretty robust outlook given, he is very much rushing driven. This is like old school type. Remember when they like started throwing him screen passes and stuff? This is like before that. He's like not getting any work really as a receiver, but they use him around the goal line. I expect the Ravens to score points. So like you could see like, 60 yards, but like 2 touchdowns, almost like the reverse of last week where he's just running all over the place in terms of yardage. But so Henry's a strong play, but like Barkley, I just don't think there's really any chance that the Eagles come out here and are just like 10% pass rate over expected, 69% pass rate, just lean into the matchup. Like that's not, they've had chances to do that. They've gone completely the other way. They pass less than 50% of the time against the Jaguars. Like they're not going to pass at an out. Yeah, we're lucky for like 55%. Yeah, so I think he's going to get his work. His efficiency is going to come down, but I'm kind of sick of betting against Saquon Barkley's rushing efficiency, guys.
I think that's
the 1 week I played him in cash, he got 8 points.
I know. I played him that week too.
Davis, I'm begging you. Play him.
We can't even get right on him, dude.
Please play him in cash this week. I'm pretty sure I probably played him in cash if you guys did also. So maybe play him in cash and then fade him and play the passing game in tournaments and wheels up. All right.
Yeah. There you go.
That is it for the DraftKings slate. We have one game on the FanDuel slate that's not on the DraftKings slate, that being the 49ers and the Bills. No Brock Purdy, so not the most interesting. I wrote up just Christian McCaffrey, Juwan Jennings as MME plays on the 49ers. Juwan Jennings is 6,100, so pretty cheap on FanDuel. 27 targets on 90% route participation over the past 3 weeks. Really strong role. Christian McCaffrey returned for the past 3 games, 43 carries and 16 targets in those 3 games. So I think that he's working in there a little bit. Josh Allen on the Bills side, he's 9,000, but I think he's just always kind of playable. Khalil Shakir has 27
better
targets.
On FanDuel too.
Yeah. Also a good point. Khalil Shakir, since Amari Cooper joined the team, 3 games with they played 3 games together. Khalil Shakir has 27 targets on 77% route participation in those 3 games. So I think he still looks pretty good. And then with Kincaid out, Dawson Knox last week saw 6 targets on 75.6% route participation at just $5,000. Every player I just listed to me is just a large field tournament play. None of them are priorities. I know I did the synopsis there because I know you guys don't play on FanDuel or
where's James Cook?
I don't know if Davis does. James Cook was like 7,800 or something that was expensive enough that I didn't strongly consider it. But I guess you could make the case for James Cook if you wanted to. It was too expensive for me though.
Yeah. Okay. The Niners are a run funnel, and so without Purdy, you could see.
Yeah.
It does sound like Purdy's going to play. By the way, I was thinking looking at this line that it wasn't. But I think it might just be more about the state that the 49ers are in, because I just saw a report from practice today. Brandon Allen wearing the scout team jersey, Purdy back, getting the reps in with the ones.
That's interesting.
Now, I think he probably is going to suck and be limited, but this is the season. They lose this game. I think their playoff probability goes to like sub 1%.
How bad is it to get – people are going to get McCaffrey teams through, and then he's going to get shut down because they're going to –
Oh, you're right. Yep.
So brutal.
That is brutal.
It's Juwan Jennings. All you needed to do, Quentin Johnston, Juwan Jennings, Demarcus Robinson. Simple.
Easy
process.
Easy game. Come on. And of course, early running backs.
Jennings and Brandon Allen and the oldest running back in every single round. Someone in Pete's Discord did a best pick of every round, and they said they went through and they're like, I had to fudge it to get a wide receiver in any round because the answer was you had to get to like round 11. It was like, would you rather have Jacoby Myers or Chase Brown?
Right? Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. Probably true. I mean,
Good Lord.
the first round, wouldn't it be Jamar Chase?
Sure.
Like,
yes.
unless you're like
Probably,
reaching for
yeah.
Saquon or something.
Yeah. No, you're right. It would. First round.
So we got one
wide receiver.
We got one.
We'll always have the first round, guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So that does it for the game by game matchup. Unless you guys had anything else to say, I guess James Cook is your one note of like he's expensive, but maybe you could make a case for him if you wanted to. But
more into it if Purdy doesn't go though, because it's just like they're gonna have to. Yeah.
True. Favorite stacks on the slate? Sounds like Eagles for everybody. Do you guys you want to call out any other stacks?
No, I like both sides. I like Lamar, Flowers, Brown, Hurts. I think you should make a concerted effort if you're playing like 5 to 10 teams to at least make one or two of those. I like Stafford doubles, which I never like. If you're playing Richardson, I don't think you should play him naked because I think he's going to be so popular.
I agree.
If you are doing the Herbert thing, you should do doubles. I think you should include Disley in that because again, it's going to be super popular. Yeah, that's about it.
Stroud doubles are interesting.
Not for me. I mean, they might work, and I don't hate it, but I don't think I'm going to be playing those.
I think I'm with you there.
Lawrence.
Stafford, I kind of like Stafford. I think he's cheap enough. You throw in Puka, maybe even double it. Puka and Cooper. I don't think it's ever really worked out, but I think it could. So I think I might try that this week. What about sub 5% owned plays? Any like super contrarian plays you guys want to throw out?
Anyone in the Ravens game?
I mean, yeah.
Jamar Chase, the literal highest point scorer at the wide receiver position. It's going to be like 5 to 7% owned in like what is like a legit playoff game for his team. Yeah,
it's a good call out.
That is,
and good. I think Brees, Pat, I think your boy Brees is going to be no one's going to play him just because of the vibes.
I know, but the vibes, like he is the vibe antidote. Like you give Brees the ball so you don't have to deal with Rodgers, you know?
Right. Good point. Yeah.
And he's playing all the snaps. Like this, I think we're all a little scarred from when it looked like Allen might be kind of taking that role a little bit, the early down stuff. Yeah. It's like he's 80% plus snaps is all you can ask for at running back. That's what we're getting for Brees right now.
Yep. All right. I think that does it for the show. So where are you guys? What else do you guys have coming up for the rest of the week? Where can people find you?
I'll be streaming live Sunday morning. Got my DFS write-up over on patreon.com/Davis Mattek. And I hope you guys all had a great Thanksgiving holiday.
Yeah, walkthrough is not out yet because of the Thanksgiving walkthrough. Push this back a day, but that'll be out early tomorrow morning. So check that out. Covering all the games on the main slate. And quick slants by Matt Irvey will cover the Sunday night and Monday night game. Weekly rankings, rest of season rankings, dynasty rankings over at legendaryupside.com. Also, playoff best ball sidekick is launched. Last I checked, we didn't have any playoff best ball contests yet, but
we should on Monday, Pat. I think
Monday.
Nice.
Okay. All right. So yeah, check out.
That's not official, but I'm just guessing from how small they made the BRs this week. That is their plan.
Interesting. Okay. But yeah, lots of playoff best ball content. We did a kind of a primer YouTube podcast over on Legendary Upside YouTube if you want to check that out. Plus, Sacrilegious is a guide to playoff best ball on the site as well. Highly recommend that if you're going to be doing playoff best ball this year.
I really enjoyed that episode. Both loved and hated that. Sounded like you guys are on a lot of the like stacks that I like, that like the Chargers stack, like a lot of the ones that you're drafting. I was like, shit, don't tell people about those stacks. I'm glad I'm on the same page as all you guys, but also let's not tell everybody about these stacks.
You can always tell if you're doing pods with Sacrilegious, you can always tell like when he's about to give the really good stuff because he's like, all right. The answer is the Chargers.
He doesn't want to, but like he does.
He legitimately doesn't want to.
Yeah.
But he usually will. You can convince him usually to give away the good stuff.
Yep. Yeah, good show. Check that out. Davis, I loved your show with High IQ Guy. I guess I was on the Takecast. I wasn't on your YouTube channel.
Have you've been playing DFS long enough to know about Doubt?
Probably, oh yeah, I know the screen name. I've never actually like seen him in anything before, so don't really know him. But that was my first exposure to him.
Let me tell you, doing a podcast with someone who has a lab tested 160 IQ, right. You're like, fuck, man.
Yeah. My advice to anybody who isn't going to get a 160 is to don't get your IQ tested, because as I learned, apparently people overestimate their own IQ by like 30 IQ points. I learned on your podcast. So just don't do it.
They overestimate their partner by 35%. I thought that was interesting.
Wow.
That was interesting. Yeah, really, really fascinating. On the Davis's Takecast, you can check that out.
That's
also.
love. That's some real love right there.
That is
life.
yeah.
Honestly, it's love. All right. And I'll be doing a Sunday Night Football, I guess, on my own channel. I will be doing a breakdown there. I also my main slate article I posted in chat, but my tournament article at 4for4 is available now. I'll be doing a cash breakdown at 4for4 as well. Check those out. And again, it's like $5 right now for the rest of the year. So make sure you get into the 4for4 DFS plan for the rest of the year. I believe it is 4for4.com/plans. You can find it pretty easily on the homepage. Anyway, that is going to do it for this show. Thank you, Davis and Pat. Thank you all for hanging out with us. We'll be back next Friday for the Week 14 slate. See you then.